Hello, hello. Welcome to Actors Anonymous Podcast. It's me, Wesam, as usual. Today's a very special episode. Cheryl Texera and Jordan Burbank join me in the studio. How you doing, guys?
Ooh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
I've never been here before. This is a really exciting time. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, right.
Today's a special episode, too, because is everything okay, Nicole? Great. I bumped the chair and Nicole started pointing at something. So anyway, no, today's a very special episode because I'll be talking about my experiences in Chicago filming Zoobiquity. And oh my goodness, what a crazy, crazy good experience. I learned so much. And at times I felt very green because it was my first series regular job, but the whole pilot process, you know, there's a lot of things I didn't know about and a lot of things I learned about, and I'm trying to figure out where to start with all this. And I guess to start off, I wanted to talk about the testing process and how stressful that can be for any actor. I had a relatively unstressful testing process because, unbeknownst to me, at the first time I tested for this, I was testing against only one other person. And sometimes you test around 2 or 3 other people, or sometimes more. And then the second time around, I did not see that other person there. So it was nice not seeing my competition there in the room with me, which at testing level, I had gone into producer sessions before and etc., but I've never really tested officially. And so it was nice not having somebody else there as another distraction.
Yeah.
The producers, though, John Collier, Stephen Nathan, and Spencer were very welcoming, very warm. It was just them every single time, basically. And the first time I came in for a producer session, the director, Kevin Bray, was there as well. And they made it a lot easier on me just by being warm and welcoming. So I had it very easy. I'm very thankful, very lucky. And I think we've talked about this on the show before. I can't remember if it's been with you or you, Cheryl, but we've got to focus on, as actors, the things we have control over, you know. Even if those other people, like that first time I tested, the other guy who was there, I didn't even want to look at him.
Yeah.
I just was just focused on what
I'm going to destroy you.
No, I didn't even want to think that. I'm just focus on the work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I kept telling myself. I'm like, go back to your lines. Even though I had it, I'm like, just go over the script, read it over and over and over and over. And it became a very zen moment for me in there because there were people the first time I went in for the testing. By the way, okay, so this was a fun story. As an actor, what happens, the many surprises of being in the business. I walk in there. And it took me over an hour to get there because it's in the morning. It was on the Fox lot. I'm coming in from the Valley, traffic, etc. So the whole, I was up.
That's an awful location. The Fox lot is just
especially if you're coming from the Valley. Yeah. If you live around that area, it's fine. You know, of course.
There is an app called Waze that my husband's able to get there in 30 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to.
Yeah, you're going to have to download
use Waze
that.
more. Yeah. But I was up that day before. I usually wake up around dawn, but I was up before pre-dawn, and I was just literally meditating and just trying to just calm everything. And it worked. I really was calm, focused, just very zen-like, if you will. And then the drive over there, staying calm, staying active in what I was trying to do, going over my lines, and then going in there and, signing in and just waiting. That's very, what's the word? Active. It's being very active, but you're trying to stay calm at the same time. So you're expending a lot of energy and mental energy. So I'm waiting there, and they're testing for another show at the same time in that area. So I'm seeing these other actors come in, and I'm like, oh, is this person for my role? No, they don't look like me. I can kind of hear them. And then I'm like, no, it's just don't listen to them. Just focus on the lines, focus on your work, focus on what you want to do, focus on your breathing. And finally, I'm there maybe like 30, 40, 45 minutes. Finally, the other guy comes in. I'm like, okay, this guy's here for my role. I can tell. He kind of looks like me, and I recognize him from a few other things. Super nice guy. Super nice guy. He asked me, is there a sign-in sheet? I was like, no, there's not. And I just went back to my...
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't talk to you right now.
Don't engage.
Yeah. And then I get a phone call from my manager, and he's like, oh, no, the casting director came up, excuse me, and he goes, hey, we can't test you until your deal goes through because you have to like sign your contract before you even test. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, you need to call your manager and, hurry that up.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he wasn't trying to be like mean or anything. He's like, you just need to do it. But immediately, and this is why it's so important as actors to be practicing this, meditating, this Zen, this calmness beforehand, this awareness, because immediately I felt that emotion come up of like, oh my gosh, my deal didn't go through. What's going on? You know what I mean? But I was like, no, just calm that down. Call him up. I'm like, hey, Steve, what's going on? And he's like, hey, man. I'm just shaking, right? And he's like, hey, we're just working things out. They didn't let us know that you were testing until the night before. So it's hard for us to like finalize everything.
Oh.
This is where we're at with the deal. Are you okay with it? Etc. Very calm, collected, because they've done this a million times before. And I'm brand new to it. So I'm just kind of living in the moment, being aware, staying calm. Like, that's great. I'm okay with that. Let's just sign it right there. I'm happy with that. And I wait some more. And then the producers come out, or I go to the bathroom, I come out, and then all the producers are there. They're talking with the other guy, and the casting's there. And I'm like, oh man, I missed something. And so they tell me, hey, we're going to test tomorrow.
What?
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. Things happen. It's fine. A part of me was like, oh, let me just go in there and test.
Let me just do this.
Yeah.
It's just,
I'm
please, I just need to do it and just forget about it. And then I was like,
all walk by you to like be like, bye. Or
who?
is it just like,
oh no, they talked. No, we talked for a little bit, and they were super nice. Everybody was super, just warm and nice, and I was like, that's fine. And so, that whole when I got home, I just played video games. Like I just had to like decompress.
Yeah.
I bought a video game, StarCraft, and I'm just like, that's it. I'm just playing video games for a few hours just to forget about it, and. I had a nice dinner and just tried to really, decompress. And there's an importance to that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're so actively engaged like that, oh my gosh, it's so draining.
Yeah.
But you also don't have any control over it, like this scenario. So you just need to let it go. Like you just, and that's, and obviously easier said than done, but.
Absolutely. Especially when in your mind you have a lot riding on it, and it could be a life changer, for any actor. It's a life changer, especially if you book it and it goes through. But there's a million steps beforehand, which I'll get to here in a little bit. Anyway, I test the next day, and I'm the only one there. I got a chance to talk with John and Spencer, and Steve and Nathan actually came in, and these are the EPs of Bones. You know what I mean? Stephen and John. And
cool.
They are so I mean, I'm not just saying that because, I
want a bigger role.
No. I'm telling you guys, they are so cool. We talked about, me and Stephen talked about podcasts, and John and I talked about other stuff. Spencer was cool, and they're like, they're ready for us in the room. And there was a little bit of delay with getting the equipment ready, which was fine because we got to talk more, and it made me comfortable as the actor. And I didn't see the other actor there, and the casting's like, okay, sign your contract. And I'm like, oh, this is happening. And I just waited. I went in there, and Stephen and John were so nice right off the bat. They really know how to talk to actors, which I think is so important because it helps them get the best out of you.
Yeah.
And they're like, first of all, you're amazing. You're great. You know that. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And they're like, we just want to see you do it, a few different ways, or we just want to direct you. What's up?
No, what's funny is I don't remember who the showrunner, what was the showrunner's name for Bones?
It wasn't Stephen or John.
It's not.
I don't know if they showrun.
Well, I only asked because I watched. There's an amazing documentary online that was, or on Netflix called Showrunners, and it's all the exploration of what it's like to actually be running a show and all the stuff that goes into it. But one of my favorite things from actually the showrunner from Bones, they were saying that when you work with actors, it's really interesting when you're on a TV show because the first season they work for you. And then the second season you work with them. And then in the third season, you work for them. Because by the third season, everyone's so comfortable with their roles. Everyone knows who they are and what they do, and that it's based. And that's usually a lot of times too when people become producers. People become, I want to direct an episode, and that usually is something that I realized like it's such a good like model to be like after you create this story, you create this universe, you give it to these people because you trust them, and then at a certain point they have all the say in their character because they know exactly who they are.
Wow.
Right. It's such an interesting model that I remember it came from the showrunner from Bones.
Ooh. Okay.
Huh.
I'd have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called Showrunners on Netflix.
Showrunners. It was on, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was distributed by Gravitas. So definitely, it's such a good read or watch. It's
cool.
so good. You can
Anyway.
read it if you want. I don't know.
But no, they when I was in the room, they were basically bringing out the best, possible performance, in me, and by making me comfortable, and I really appreciated that. And then something I really encourage actors to do now more than ever, and I've said it again, go do improv class, go do improv training. It is the most beneficial thing you can do as an actor. It sharpens your skills to take direction so well, because Steven's direction, whenever I was in the room, was so precise that I was like, it's like, here's this puzzle piece I'm presenting to them, and he's like, okay, let's change this. And so it changes everything else that you do, all the choices that you make. And if you're not sharp like that,
Yep.
you can't execute. So now more than ever, go take an improv class. Go take 2, go take 3, take like a hardcore 8-week course.
And it helps you listen.
Yes.
You need to really listen to the direction.
Yes.
Thank you.
given.
And that echoes off Meisner's work too, really listening, being in the moment. And if you're not even listening to the direction correctly because you're so worried in your head about, am I doing this right?
Yep.
Which a lot of actors have, then you can't deliver. And so there's so many things that I'm going to read a little section here from one of my favorite books, Mastery by George Leonard. And it talks about why the plateau is so crucial. And that's what I felt all last year for me, was this giant plateau. And I was just in a desert, basically, just walking and improving my craft. And at times I can't see what's beyond the horizon. It's just sand. Where am I going? It feels like I'm going nowhere, but I see little clues on the way there, like a tree, like a bird, like some, these are very crazy metaphors, I know, but that's what's in my head. And I was like, I gotta stay on it. I gotta stay on the plateau. It's so crucial that we work on these skills as actors: improv, listening, going to class, meditating, focusing. These all helps you in these crucial moments, and they've just been so helpful for me. So I just want to take this little section and read it for you guys. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's Mastery by who?
George Leonard, and he is a Aikido practitioner. He has a black belt in Aikido and a military pilot as well. It's on page 41. The joy of regular practice. At that time, the Aikido school I attended was only 18 months old, and there were no regular students above blue belt. Our teachers, the only black belts around, seemed to exist in an entirely different plane from the one on which we moved. I never even considered the possibility that I would rise to that rarefied plane. So there I was, an impatient, rather driven person who had always gone for the quickest, most direct route to a given goal, practicing regularly and hard for no particular goal at all, just for its own sake. Months would pass with no break in the steady rhythm of my practice. It was something new in my life, a revelation. The endless succession of classes was rewarding precisely because it was, in the Zen sense, nothing special. I went to class 3 or 4 times a week from 7 to 9 p.m. When it was time to drive to the dojo, practice hall in the city, the problems and distractions of the day began falling away. Just folding the quilted white cotton gi practice uniform softened my breathing and brought me a feeling of peace. The drive took about a half hour, across the bridge into the city, over a long hill that taxed my car's lowest gear. Then finally down to a broad and noisy avenue noted for row upon row of car dealerships. Despite the noise outside, climbing the stairs to the second-story dojo was like entering a sanctuary, a place both alien to my customary existence and altogether familiar. I loved everything about it. The ritual that was always the same yet always new, bowing upon entering, pulling my membership card from the rack on the front desk, changing to my gi in my dressing room. I loved the comforting smell of sweat, the subdued talk. I loved coming out of the dressing room and checking to see which other students were already warming up. I loved bowing again as I stepped on the mat, feeling the cool, firm surface on the soles of my feet. I loved taking my place on the long row of Aikidoists all sitting in Seiza, the Japanese meditation position. I loved the entry of our teacher, the ritual bows, the warm-ups, techniques, and then my heart pounding, my breath rushing as the training increased in speed and power. It wasn't always like that. Sometimes when the moment came to go to class, I would be feeling particularly lazy. On those occasions, I would be tempted to do almost anything rather than face myself once again on the mat. And sometimes I would give in to that inevitable human resistance against doing what's best for us and waste an evening distracting myself. I knew quite well, however, that when I did overcome my lethargy, I would be rewarded with a little miracle. I knew that no matter how I felt on climbing the dojo stairs, 2 hours later, after hundreds of throws and falls, I would walk out tingling and fully alive, feeling so good, in fact, that the night itself would seem to sparkle and gleam. This joy, I repeat, had little to do with progress or the achievement of goals. Let me repeat that. This joy, I repeat, had little to do with progress or the achievement of goals. I was taken totally by surprise. In fact, when one of my teachers called a fellow student and me into his office after a weekend of marathon training and handed us brown belts, they ranked next to black belt. One night, about a year later, the foremost advanced brown belts in the school happened to have a conversation during which we obliquely touched upon the possibility that we were ourselves might someday achieve the rank of black belt. The idea was both exciting and troubling. And when next I came to class, I was aware of something new. The worm of ambition was eating stealthily away at the center of my belly. Maybe it was coincidence, but within 3 weeks of that conversation, all 4 of us suffered serious injuries: a broken toe, torn ligaments in the elbow, a dislocated shoulder, and an arm broken in 3 places. These injuries were effective teachers. After recovering, we settled back into steady, goalless practice. Another 1.5 years was to pass before the 4 of us made black belt. This isn't to say that we didn't practice hard. The hacker, this is a description of a type of person whenever they start a practice, gets on a plateau and doesn't keep working. As I think back on that period, I realized that in spite of our many flaws, we were definitely on the path of mastery. Unlike the hacker, we were working hard, doing the best we could to improve our skills, but we had learned the perils of getting ahead of ourselves, and now we are willing to stay on the plateau for as long as was necessary. Ambition still was there, but it was tamed. Once again, we enjoyed our training. We loved the plateau, and we made progress. I think a lot of actors there feel like they're on that plateau, especially the ones who are hardworking. Mm-hmm. And there's a zen-like quality to that. To really be in there, in the shit sometimes, and just doing it. That peace, that stability. There's like this connection that you start having, like even in this room as I'm talking about it. I know it sounds very spiritual or whatever you want to call it, but it's what I'm experiencing and what I really experienced in Chicago working on this project. Because after the year of just this plateau and just working and then acquiring something just by everything kind of falling into place the way it should be, I feel like a connection has been made. And I'm more connected with the people around me. the things around me, the circumstances around me. There's a new level of awareness that comes with it. And I'm truly blessed and thankful that I had the support of my family, my friends, to give me that motivation to keep going.
What would you say brought you to that level? Obviously, being in this role gave you an opportunity to experience something very unique and new. But what do you think brought you from that plateau to where you are now? Is it training? Is it just sticking with it? Is it not giving up and focusing? Like, what did you harness, do you think?
It was not giving up. Yes, that definitely plays a part in it. But there's also something else. There are outside circumstances that come into play, which I had no control over. I have a great management team. I have a great agent. You know what I mean? The team behind me is good, but
it comes down to you, though. And I mean, obviously, it's a team of people that work around you, but
my relationships that I developed with them, like why they are with me right now, were from choices I made years ago. Years ago, like seeds that germinate in the air, are coming to fruition now. And that's why it's so important, if you have like messed up in the past, to not give up and just go, you know what? I'm 30 or 40, 50, so what? 60. I feel like I wasted my life. There's nothing. No, you still have life. Now, plant those seeds. There's still time. There's an amazing story. Man, I just get so pumped up, and I don't know if I'm just seeing things shining all the time now.
Yeah.
And I know there's a possibility this pilot might not go through. I'm fully aware of that. But everything is shining. There's an amazing moment there's a painting that I have, and it's about this. It is this. I'll post it on our Facebook wall. It's this samurai, this wonderful artist, Juri, her name is. She painted it, and it's this samurai almost with this like gold leaf behind his head, like he's become a saint or become enlightened. And the story behind him is this: he was a beast of a warrior, and he fought for this shogun, and this shogun made some, he made some enemies, and this army was coming to kill this shogun, and the samurai was sworn to protect him. So he stands on this bridge with this long pole with a huge blade on it, and literally hundreds of warriors are coming to him, and he's just cutting them down. He's so driven by the samurai spirit. Finally, the opposing army says, nobody's getting close to him. We're just going to shoot a volley of arrows at him. They shoot this volley of arrows, and he's still standing. And he has just arrows piercing every part, and he's just still standing. They're freaked out. They think he's some kind of demon or some kind of, you know what I mean? So the whole army now is tiptoeing, approaching him. And when they come up to him, they realized he died standing up. Now there's this great poem that Juri wrote with this warrior. And it talks about how he had this realization as the arrows were coming at him, that what a wasted life. That I am fighting for somebody who's squabbling in stupid political affairs, you know what I mean? And I just killed hundreds of guys, and people are losing their lives, and what am I fighting for? And it's in that brief moment right before he died that he achieved this kind of smidgen of enlightenment, which I will bring about when we end the episode again. And in that small instant, he's developed this good karma, which in his next life, he's able to grow from it. So it's this beautiful story of it's never too late, no matter where you are, as long as you still, Anyway, I love it.
I was curious too. I think probably all of you could speak on it, but with our audience and with what you're just saying, like the difference of being on a level of a larger production and being a regular.
Yeah.
What can someone expect between the difference of going out for a role, as a regular, your typical audition versus when you're taking something like a producer meeting or going out for like a mainline role that's like on a bigger scale? Like what are the differences when you do a casting like that? What can someone anticipate as like an average, getting started off with acting and going in for a casting versus...
So, I'm so sorry. I'm confused with your question. Can you...
No, I'm just curious because you were saying like it's a different experience for you to go out for a bigger role, going out for something on a larger scale. Like I was wondering, is there a difference when you're going in for a casting on a level of like you're just going in for
Like a guest spot?
a 5 and under kind of spot versus when you're going in for something like you were just saying you had to wait until they cleared your contract before you could even audition, or just taking producer. I know,
gotcha.
Nicole, you were saying like you took producer meetings recently too. So it's like, what goes through your mind? What are the differences between a regular? Is it just like there's more at stake, so you're nervous more, or is it just like what is it about it that makes it a little bit like is it more intimidating? I'm just curious for our audience.
Okay, I'll tell you. For me, very little. The differences are the making sure my contract goes through, being ready for a conversation with the producers, I think is very important. It's about you, show the best.
Being ready for redirection. That's important.
Oh.
Because sometimes in casting sessions, you don't get that redirection. And so you're kind of left wondering, like, should I have done that? Should I have done something differently? And then if you do go on to a producer session, they're most likely going to give you redirection.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think, yes. And I think that's something you should prepare for regardless. Because a 5 and underline, you can get redirection. You know what I mean? It goes back to what you have control over, the work. So I think it's a very little difference. But yeah, of course, more is riding on it. But
do you think it's something that you have to be more prepared as both yourself and the character?
Well, I think you always do the work.
Yeah.
You should always be doing the work.
Yeah.
And there's definitely going to be more material if you're a series reg as opposed to 5 and under. So yeah, there is going to be more preparation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something I noticed working on the pilot whenever we were shooting scenes, it goes back to basics, even on these big projects. You know what? The rhythm's not hitting. Can we change some of the lines? You know what? What's my motivation here? What's driving it? One of the best master classes I saw or learned from, Kevin Bray, the director, told me, when you're reading a scene that is heavy medical dialogue, how to make it engaging, with movement in the scene. So there's lots of people crossing, blocking, they can't just sit there and talk about this. There's something important happening here medically. You know what I mean? There has to be that movement, that engaging quality from the actors. On top of that, the cameras are moving. They had 3 cameras moving and they have to choreograph. So I'm like looking at this beautiful living organism made up by other organisms. It's just mind-blowing to me. I still get excited over it.
Why do you think they did 3 cameras?
There were 7 main actors in the scene. They have to get coverage. It takes a long time, to get coverage for everybody and making that coverage look good, which, by the way, Tim was the DP on the show, and he did an amazing job lighting it. Kevin was an amazing director. And it's just amazing how all that harmony works. And
what can you tell us?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can actually tell us, but what is the premise of the show?
Okay, yeah, I will tell you that because I don't think I have yet. Have I? No.
Zoobiquity is a very odd name with no description.
Right.
I'm
so
curious.
Catherine Bowers, who's a fan of the podcast, big shout out to Catherine. Thanks for listening. And Barbara Horowitz, they co-authored the book Zoobiquity. And then Zoobiquity talks about the correlation between animal and human physiology and health and medicine, how much we share with animals, like diseases, etc. And the premise of the show is Lucas, played by Peter Fasanelli. He's a vet, and I play the assistant to him, the assistant vet. And Marsha Thompson plays the head, the female lead, who's a heart doctor, and basically they collaborate together and they solve medical mysteries that involve humans and animals. And Kim Raver is in the cast, and it's just a spectacular cast. And working with everybody was everybody's top notch, and it was really cool because sometimes like Barbara or one of the other producers would come into a scene and be like, oh, you can't handle like the dog, like you need to handle it like this, or like some type of medical like nuances, you know. We had supervisors on the set as well, which was really cool. There was something that I wanted to mention. Oh goodness.
Is it fun working with animal coworkers?
I have so many pictures that I can't post yet, but when the show comes up, I'm so cute. Oh my gosh. I love working with animals. Even though sometimes they can be difficult because they're animals. You can't.
You stole my scene. You stole your dog.
Yeah.
No, they're great. And we have, some great animal people on set to make sure they're treated properly, which they were. And, it's.
How was it working with the whole cast when you first all met? Like, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, we meshed right away. Great. So that was wonderful. Learning from like Peter, he's a very experienced actor, and Kim, and watching them work on set was very great for me because Peter's the male lead of the show, and watching him trying to work through a scene to make it fit more for his character that he's created, and watching the director and the EPs kind of like it's like a collaboration effort.
Work with him to do that,
and find like this character's voice and the blocking and the movement, and sometimes like if. Well, my character would do this. Well, my character, I feel, would do this, and watching them come to a middle ground in such a beautiful way. It's like, oh, that's great. These are professional people, and they love what they do, and it was so good to learn from them like that. And yeah, I keep telling people I learned so much. I really did. It made me like such a better actor, and just to be aware of it and not to be overwhelmed by the whole process. And that's what I encourage other actors who are in this position, because it felt overwhelming at times. And I'm like, no, I got to focus on the acting. That's the only thing that's my job. That's my only job. So that's what I should focus on.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with secrets.
My hair's so big today.
Put a flavored condom on your head because your mind is about to get blown.
High school is over.
Blackout party at the beach, bitches! You're legit popular.
Maddie f***ing McKevin.
You have to tell her.
I still want to be with you. You still want to be with me?
Welcome to the Enchanted Fantasy Prom. Be sure to sign up for the raffle. You could win a rainbow.
Awkward. Season 5 premiering August 31st at 9/8 Central. Only on MTV.
And we're back. Oh, guys.
This is exciting. No, but it is. I said that the way I said it, but it's so, first off, I feel like we didn't really get a chance to congratulate Wesam.
Oh,
Yes.
This is freaking
thank you.
huge.
Thank you so much, guys.
Huge.
I remember when we went to the actors' green room.
Yeah.
And we took that I forgot the class name with Jennifer.
It was Create. It was the Create workshop with the actors' green room. Yeah.
And we did this exercise in there. Do you remember it?
Of course.
Our goals, what
Yes.
we want for the year, we had to write them out.
Yeah.
Exactly, specifically what we wanted. And I was like, I want to book a series regular on a pilot. And then we had that really, really funny moment in the class.
That little I want to do this
Yes.
right now.
Well, you had to turn to someone and share your goal with them, and literally like hand this piece of paper that you just put down. You didn't just put your goals. You put like your fears.
Yeah.
You put your hopes. Like it was a very personal piece of paper. And then they're like, now hand it to the person next to you. And I was like, what? That's like a diary page.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were there, because I was like, she's my partner every single time.
Right?
I'm not doing this with anybody else.
And it was just so crazy when I got Wesam's paper and I saw his goal. I literally just like dropped the paper. I was like, you are a series regular. I was like, what are you talking about?
And I was like, in the metaphorical sense, sure, like in my mind, but I'm not literally a series regular.
And I totally thought you were on Awkward. And it's just so funny because clearly the energy that you are putting out into the world, it's like, I'm not going to go and double check like Awkward Records. Like, is Wesam Quiche a certain? No.
This has all been a lie.
It's just,
it's great marketing.
The way that you, right. It's the way that you carry yourself and the way that you present yourself that it's kind of like, oh, sure. Yeah, obviously this guy works, you know? And it's just so funny. Look how quickly it came to fruition.
Yeah. And I know doesn't happen with everybody. And it's, again, I'm so thankful. And it's who I surround myself with is a reflection, I believe, on who I want to be. Like every part of you, like everybody here in this room right now, you have qualities that I want to retain. And they are like the best of each of you are stuff like, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I want that in me too. So yeah, that's why I'm really careful who I spend my time with, who I work with too.
I was going to say, like, I feel like a part of it too, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a part of it gets to a point where I feel like when you were saying like how quickly it was after you wrote it down on a piece of paper to get there, I for myself, like, realized the other day, like this week especially, I'm like, I'm actually way happier than I've been in a while. Like, and I don't know what it was. And then I kind of like tracked it back and I was like, because I've been trying to do something for so long, and like how, even though it was like quick for you, you were saying there's this long plateau of trying to figure stuff out and losing yourself and trying to captivate everything.
And that was just last year. Yeah. Not to mention like, every other, stuff that was happening in my past.
And I feel like for me, I've recently had a few things going on that I can't really talk about right now, but, it took me a while to get to a level of being happier and more comfortable on a daily basis because I had to make a decision for myself. There's things about myself I was unhappy with. A lot of it was getting to a level of trying to just do things, right. Not having enough energy, or just like feeling down about yourself because of whatever mentality that you have. That I literally had to just be like continuously every single day being like, shut up, stop thinking that, move forward and do it. If you want to see a change, you have to want the change. And that's one of the hardest things that I had to deal with, that finally I feel like I'm on a better track of like moving forward and I'm like, is that something that because I know you went through a time of being like, I just really want to book something. I really want to get to that level. I feel like, now that you got to this.
This is something that's helped me. I've done a lot of martial arts and physical activity, and without that physical exercise that I've had, because when I work out, I do extreme workouts. Like I have to think like, okay, my brother's on the end of this mountain trail and he's dying. I have to get to him by 40 minutes or he's dead. So that kind of physical exertion. Yeah, when I run, people. I know
just
people
on the treadmill with this like.
People either think I'm either running away from something or running to catch somebody. Like they probably think I'm insane.
Do you have Terminator arms? Like,
I am hauling ass on the mountain. Hauling ass. People think like, is there a mountain lion? He's running from a mountain lion.
Oh my gosh.
No, but I have to do that because there are times in the workout where I feel exactly like I really like, I don't know how to explain it. You're at the brink of like, for me, I'm about to pass out. I'm physically like, my muscles are failing. My heart feels like it's going to burst out of my chest. But it's in those moments that you really find yourself. And your awareness of things just kind of, I don't know. It's a really cool, again, Zen place to be. Sometimes you're almost looking at yourself in third person perspective. There's a great ultra runner book that you should check out then. It's called The Runner or The Machine, I believe. Isaiah Adams, he was on the show. Oh yeah. He used to run and he recommended me the book, and he talks about how this ultra marathon runner was like, at one point I was just looking at myself from a third person perspective, and all I saw myself was as a machine. There was no blood. It was all oil. There were no muscles. It was all like metal and like all this stuff and just pounding away. He was no longer himself.
I saw this thing recently that said that Navy SEALs are trained, or not trained, or you know what I'm talking about? The 40% rule. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. Like that people only push themselves to like 40% of what they're capable of, and you can always push past that 40%.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's really amazing.
I feel like fitness too is one of those things. Like I think a big part of my I don't know, shame spiral, whatever you want to call it. Depression in the past few months is like I had a loss in my family, for those who don't know. But it was a major problem for me that I couldn't emotionally get over. And I think one of the things that did it was working out. And, I gained weight, I got depressed, and then, like, I was just like, I'm fed up with this. I need to do something. And I started going back to the gym and boxing. And when you're boxing too, is like one of those things where it's so great because, I'll do like the bag and then I'll have someone hold pads for me in the ring. So, when you're doing the bag, it's just like, you do heavy on the bag and then you just do fat, like you work on speed on the pads. Right. So I was just like, but when you can put that anger towards it and not like in an angry way, be boxing, but use that anger to create like this essence of yourself to like just almost harness it as energy and use it to last longer. For me, that's like, I lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks, so that was awesome.
That's incredible.
But it was like,
dude.
yeah, it's just because I wanted it. I really wanted it, and it was just like I went every single day after work. And I live in North Hollywood, and my gym is in Hollywood, like down by like La Brea and Sunset. And I was like, I just to get there is like half the hassle,
Yeah.
like every single day.
Yeah.
There's that reminds me of stuff, and it's when I do run on the mountains, I do. It is a spiritual experience with me, and I allow myself to go meditate after I'm done, especially after running up the mountain. There's a section where I literally it's like in the bushes, and I just sit and meditate because it's a spiritual experience. There's a great story of Alexander the Great where he came across this town and he saw that people kept their cemeteries next to their houses and their places of worship very, very far away. Like it was a struggle to get to them. And it was like a symbolic meaning, like really earning to go worship, like struggling to walk up the mountain to worship and always remembering that death is right next door. And so it's really cool that you forced yourself to drive all the way there, because even in what I just read to you here, that drive to the keto dojo is it's part of the experience of working out. It's that warm up before the warm up, and going up the stairs to the keto gym, you know what I mean? That whole thing, I'm sure if I don't know if you're still continuing to do it, but it's that discipline, that rhythm where all of a sudden it becomes nothing special, quote unquote. It's that Zen quality to it. And that's awesome that you did it and found, a positive aspect. And physiology, the Dr. Rhonda Patrick talks about this on her podcast, that physical exercise is actually helps support your nervous system and grow neurons and et cetera like that. So there's a physical change to it. It's science.
It's just a mental clarity when you can actually, and I think that mental clarity comes from, if you keep going to that same thing, the difference about fitness is that when you go the next day, you can push yourself harder. Yeah. You can achieve that 41%, that 42% every single time you go to the gym. I remember like I got on the treadmill and I'm like, oh God, I fucking hate this. Like I hate running. And it took you X amount of time. And then the next time I went to the gym, I was like, all right, I'll just do running again. I hate that. But you do it I did it in half the time on my first time. And it was literally the day after. And I'm like, it's just that you weren't conditioned. You can do this. And that means if you can do that in half the time, you can do something else just that much better if you keep applying yourself for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have some time left. And before we end, I just want to hit a few things specifically. First off, if you haven't read Zoobiquity, I think as an artist, it's so important that you learn the sciences and realize how closely we're connected with our animal nature. So go buy the book Zoobiquity and read it. You can even like skim through it, but I recommend reading it and realize how closely connected we are to our, what's the best word?
Furry friends.
Furry friends, sure. That's the most PC way to put it.
And then continuously watch the pilot when it comes out so it's picked up.
Yes. Watch Zoobiquity.
Yes.
And then tweet at Fox that you want it to be picked up. I would really appreciate that. Buy the book, read it. And also, I want to talk about the chemistry with the cast and the table read. I wasn't aware that you can be recast at a table read.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Nobody got recast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nobody got recast. But it happens. And I was like, was not aware of this. My agent told me this before I headed out. And I was like, oh, thank you, Joseph Lee. I appreciate this information. He's like, you'll be fine. You probably won't be recast. And I love how he said, you probably won't. He's the most direct human being I've ever met in my life. He's so calculated and he assesses things so well. And that's why I really respect him, because I know he will never bullshit me. Ever. And that's somebody really lucky to have on your side. And I consider him a friend because he doesn't bullshit me. Anyway, at the table read, you kind of see, I did my research to kind of like recognize visually who everybody was going to look like. And so, okay, this is Kim. Okay, this is Antonia. This is Marsha. This is Peter. Hey, Peter, how's it going? And then I'm looking around. We got some other readers there for the smaller parts. I'm like, great. And then it goes back again. Focus on the craft. And I don't know, we hit it off. Everybody did amazing at the table read. Nobody got recast. We had a dinner that night with the producers, the studio execs. It was just, everybody wanted this thing to go through. Everybody wanted this project to be the best it could be. And it's so amazing when you work with that type of people. Especially when I realized Peter was in Can't Hardly Wait.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, duh. It's one of my favorite lines.
I talked to him about it at lunch. I was like, dude, I hope you don't like feel like you're way older, because you're not. But just know that it's awesome for me meeting actors who I've watched when I was younger, and I've enjoyed their performances, and I've watched that movie so many times over, and now I'm working with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like as an equal and like as a colleague and as an artist, a fellow artist on the show. And it's like, wow, that's special is not even a word that I would, it's amazing. Really amazing. It really blows my mind. And I don't know if I'm just way too much of a positive person, but I know I'm realistic at the same time, but it's just that time gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is so, oh my gosh. I know. What did I drink in my protein drink this morning? Like, this is the first time that I've really gotten to like, I'm getting teary-eyed, not because like, not because I'm crying, it's sad, it's over. No, it's just an emotional thing for me because I realize how special it is and literally cannot put it into words, so I'm going to stop talking about it. So, I want to end today with a very emotional passage in a book from the Tibetan book on living and dying by Singapore Rinpoche, which I've talked about on the show before. And there was an experience I had in college where I was doing a scene from Hamlet, and it's the scene where Hamlet is berating his mother after he stabbed the priest hiding in the curtains who he thinks is his stepfather / uncle. And his mother comes out and she's like, "What have you done?" And he looks at her and he's like, "What have you done? You know, you've betrayed my father, our husband. He hasn't been dead for not even like a month. And this is like, you've married his brother. What kind of like slanderous, like even just talking about, you know," and it was just this vivid, emotional thing. And I lost myself and I was really living that character. And my scene partner, I remember like tears running down my face, but I was angry. It was the very first time I really, this is real acting. And I felt glowing, just like radiating sunlight from me. And when it was done, I was like, oh, that was great. And the teacher told me that's what you're striving for. That moment that you had. So.
I'm sorry, that transition was just really visually funny to watch.
I know, right? So on page 355, and the chapter is called The Universal Process. In Tibetan Buddhism, the Nirmanakaya is envisioned as the manifestation of enlightenment in an infinite variety of forms and ways in the physical world. It is traditionally defined in 3 ways. One is the manifestation of a completely realized Buddha, such as Gautama, who is born in the world and teaches in it. Another is a seemingly ordinary being who is blessed with special capacity to benefit others, a tulku. And third is actually a being through whom some degree of enlightenment works to benefit and inspire others through various arts, crafts, and sciences. In their case, This enlightened impulse is, as Kalu Rinpoche says, a spontaneous expression, just as light radiates spontaneously from the sun without the sun issuing directives or giving any conscious thought to the matter. The sun is, and it radiates. So, couldn't one explanation of the power and nature of artistic genius be that it derives its ultimate inspiration from the dimension of truth? This does not mean that great artists can in any way be said to be enlightened. It is clear from their lives that they are not.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it is also clear that they can be in certain crucial periods and in certain exceptional conditions, instruments and channels of enlightened energy. Who really listening to the greatest masterpieces of Beethoven or Mozart could deny that another dimension at times, it seems, to be manifesting through their work? And who, looking at the great cathedrals of medieval Europe like Chartres or the mosques of Isfahan or the sculptures of Angkor, or the beauty and richnesses of the Hindu temples of Ellora, could fail to see that the artists who created them were directly inspired by an energy that springs from the ground and source of all things? I think of a great work of art as like a moon shining in the night sky. It illuminates the world, yet its light is not its own, but borrowed from the hidden sun of the Absolute. Art has helped many towards glimpsing the nature of spirituality, is one of the reasons for the limitations of much of modern art. However, the loss of this knowledge of art's unseen sacred origin and its sacred purpose, to give people a vision of their true nature and their place in the universe, to restore them endlessly afresh the value and meaning of life and its infinite possibilities. I know it's really deep and very thick material, but there is not vindication. It was a, oh my gosh, not a vindication. What is the word? Affirmation, maybe. Affirmation of that feeling I felt in college, of this moment I had acting. And its benefit to show people, to tell people stories, and why, like Aristotle said, it's really important that you go to the theater, because so you go live another person's life, and you gain knowledge from it, and then hopefully you, with that knowledge, you're able to improve your life and improve other people's life. Because all of us in here, at the end of the day, we want to improve our lives, be happy, find the truth. I mean, that's what it is.
That's what cinema is, though. If you like, people watch movies for that reason. Like
Absolutely.
movies are just the modern, modern version of theater. But
Yes.
you watch that,
Yeah.
and every time you're like, "Why is that girl running upstairs? That guy's gonna kill you!" Like you're just kind of like even something as simple as that. Like you're assessing people on what they're doing because you're learning about yourself every single time you watch something. Your judgments, your executions, how you would do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing time to be alive. That's for sure.
I absolutely love that. Like your fingers are completely scanned on that that read too. I was like laughing at that.
Can we show this on the live stream? This is what happens when I don't want to type something out. And I'm like, I'll just, what's up?
Hold it up again for those.
Guys, thank you so much for letting me talk and express myself. And I just want to say thank you again for being part of my life, for being part of the podcast, for all the work you've put into it, and just for being here. I really appreciate it and helping me grow as a person. And hopefully I've created some positive impact on you guys' life.
I think 85 episodes, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right? I feel old.
That's awesome.
Only 3 more to go. Wait, what? I'm kidding. A big thank you to our listeners, as always. You guys are the reason why I have this podcast, and tweet at us if something hits you inspirationally in this episode. Tweet at me. We always respond. I always respond if you're a nice person, and we'd love to hear from you. Big thanks to GVB Studios. Big thanks to Jordan, Cheryl, Nicole. Thank you guys. Jordan,
Woo!
you're awesome.
You're awesome.
Jordan Burbank 7, correct?
Jordan Burbank 7.
Twitter. Cheryl,
Yes.
what's your Twitter?
Cheryl Texera.
Awesome.
Woo.
It's awesome. Nicole,
Nikki592.
awesome.
With 1K.
1K. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. You can find me at Wesam Quiche, our website, actorsanonymouspodcast.com. And always remember to listen, think, and then talk.